Jano Vishubhad Paramahamsa Prabhakacharya Asadhara Siddhi Shiman is the one great Shri Sri Bhaktivedanta Smaraj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande all glorious to the Sangha all glorious to Shri Guru and Shri Guru Om Jnanandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chaturmukam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Visham Savidam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamaya Adati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuga Paragamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavasya Shri Rupam Savidatam Ragana Ragamatam Vitam Tam Savivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Vijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Ragana Lalita Shri Visatam Vidhamsya Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinamano Gavate Gopesha Prabhakanta Radhakanta Mosite Dr. Kanchan Gaurani Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Krishnamanu Devi Ramamani Hrinte Bhagavad Gita Vipasinu Vyeshvata Patihanam Bhavaneyo Vaishnaviyam Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Nityananda Devasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Shri Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 18, beginning with text number 40. Katarasi Pradivya Divi Deveshu Vapunaha Sakam Prapatira Jayo Yadidik Satri Virgunai Katarasi Pradivya Divi Deveshu Vapunaha Sattvam Prakati Jargunai Yadavik Satrivya Gunai
Nakadasti Pritivyamba Divi Deve Subhapuna Sattvam Prakriti Jai Muktam Yadepi Satribir Gunai
Nattadasti Prithivyamba Devi Devesu Vapunnaha Sattvam Prakriti Jair Muktam Yesyatrihir Gurnehi
Natadasti Prithvim Chakva Devi Deveshu Vapunaha Sattvam Prakriti Jair Mukta Yad Evi Satrivir Gunaha.
Ladies,
Natadasti Prithivyamba Divi Deveshu Vapunaha Sattvam Prakriti Jair Muktam Yadevi Satribir Gunai Natadasti Prithivyamba Divi Deveshu Vapunaha Sattvam Prakriti Jair Muktam Yadevi Satribir
not that asti there is Prithivyam on the earth va or Divi in the higher planetary system Deveshu among the demigods va or Punaha again Sattvam existence Prakriti Jai born of material nature Muktam liberated Yat that Evi from the influence of these Syat is Trivi three Gunai modes of material nature. Translation and a little purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. There is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems which is free from the three modes born of material nature. Purport. Here the Lord summarizes the total influence of the three modes of material nature all over the universe. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Visham, Shudranam, Chaparantapa, Karmani, Pravyaktani, Svabhava, Pravanera, Ganai. Brahmana, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures in accordance with the material modes, Hochasars of the enemy. Samadam Tapasocham Shanti Arjuvam Evacha Jnana Vigana Astikyam Brahma Karma Sabhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Soryam Teja Vriti Shocham Soya Teja Chidaksham Yude Chapipalinam Dhanam Ishvara Bhavascha Kshatrab Karma Sabhavajam. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Krishi Goraksha Vanijam Vaishya Karma Svabhavajam Paricharyatmaka Karma Shudrasyapi Svabhavajam. Cow farming, cow protection, and business is the natural work for the Vaishyas, and for the Shudras there is labor and service to others. Sway sway karma vibrata samsiddhi lamatenara sakarna nitaksidim yataviditashinu. By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. Itha pravite bhutanam yena savamidam tadam sukharamana tva avicha vidim varite manava. The worship of the Lord is all-pervading. The worship of the Lord who is the source of all beings and is all-pervading. A man can attain perfection through performing his own work. Purport is stated in the 5th chapter, all living beings are fragmented parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. Thus the Supreme Lord is the beginning of all living entities. This is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra, Janma Yasya Yataha. The Supreme Lord is therefore the beginning of life of every living entity. And as stated in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord by his two energies, his external energy and internal energy, is all-pervading. Therefore one should worship the Supreme Lord with his energies. Generally the Vaishnava devotees worship the Supreme Lord with his internal energy. His external energy is a perverted reflection of the internal energy. The external energy is the background, but the Supreme Lord, by the expansion of his plenary portion as Paramatma, is situated everywhere. He is the supersoul of all demigods, all human beings, all animals, everywhere. One should therefore know that as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one has his duty to render service unto the Supreme. Everyone should be engaged in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness. That is recommended in this verse. Everyone should think that he is engaged in a particular type of occupation by Rishikesh, the master of the senses. And by the results of the work in which he is engaged, the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be worshipped. One thinks always in this way, in full Krishna consciousness, then by the grace of the Lord he becomes fully aware of everything. That is the perfection of life. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 12:7, Te Shamaham Samudarta. The Supreme Lord himself takes charge of delivering such a devotee. That is the highest perfection of life. In whatever occupation one may be engaged, if he serves the Supreme Lord, he will be achieved the highest perfection. Namo Vishnugraya Krishna Prasadade Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Orvani Pacharne Nirvishesha Srinivadi Bhaskadya Deva. The idea of the Krishna consciousness movement is to become conscious of Krishna. That's why it's called the Krishna consciousness movement. And to become conscious of Krishna, we have to stop doing the things that cause us to become unconscious of Krishna. As Krishna will say later on in the 18th chapter, which we're reading now, verse number 57, Chaitasa sarva karmani maya sanyasya matraha Puriyogam upashritya matsita sadatambhava. Then all activities depend upon Krishna. I work always under his protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious to me. So our first business is to understand things properly. Therefore Krishna says, Tad buddhyas, tad atmanas, tad nishtas, tad prayanaha. Gachanya puna avriti jnana nirjuta kamasha. One's intelligence, in other words, faith, one's intelligence, one's mind, one's faith, one's refuge, are all fixed in the Supreme. Then one becomes fully cleansed of all misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path to self-realization. In other words, first of all, we have to develop spiritual intelligence, which consists of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Not just theoretically, but practically. Practically means that we have to consider what we do with our intelligence rather than simply with our mind and senses. Just like a man may be walking down the street and he sees an attractive lady and the mind and senses immediately say, go get her. And the intelligence says, oh, wait a second. The lady has a dot on her forehead and a man next to her. She's probably married. And the mind and senses say, that's old-fashioned. No one gets married nowadays. And even if they get married, it doesn't mean anything. Because there's only one rule and regulation nowadays is if it feels good, then you do it. Didn't you learn that in school? You're not a fool. You know there's no rules. But the intelligence says, oh, wait a second. I read 3 years ago this book that someone sold me, Bhagavad something, that it's not a good idea. And the mind and senses say, oh yeah, I know that book. That was 5,000 years ago it was spoken. No one takes that seriously anymore. So then the soul has to make a decision. With his little bit of intelligence that he has, he may try to figure out whether he should control his mind and senses and do something other than trying to meet that lady. But if he doesn't have very much intelligence, then the soul says, my dear intelligence, you're talking like a learned person, but you don't know that a learned person doesn't talk like you do. Therefore, think of a way of meeting her. So then the intelligence says, yes, if that's your decision, because you're superior to me. Therefore, I suggest you write her a letter and tell her to meet you at such and such time and such place, because she's the most wonderful thing, she's the most beautiful person you've seen. And then you're madly in love with her. She's the most beautiful person you've seen, and very small letters put in the last 2 weeks. Just be a little honest. Tell her to meet you in such and such place at such and such time, and you'll give her the sun, you'll give her the moon, and if she's kind to you, you'll throw in an extra couple of stars for her. But don't sign the letter, because the man next to her is twice as big as you are. So this is the way the soul uses his intelligence in order to figure out how to gratify the senses and the mind. On the other hand, one who's read the Bhagavad Gita more seriously and realizes that we're not this body and that we're trapped in material nature because of our activities which are against the laws of material nature. Therefore, instead of thinking of a way to meet her alone, such a person or devotee goes up to the man and the woman and gives the lady a Krishna book and the man a Bhagavad Gita and tells them, you're the most beautiful couple I've met in the last 2 weeks. Tell them that this book will give them the sun and the moon, and if they read it carefully, they'll get a couple of extra stars. And since they're the most wonderful couple, they should give you some benediction, just a little bit of Lakshmi in exchange for the book, because you're their devotee. So that's our choice. Either we can use our intelligence to engage in Krishna service, or to engage in the service of the senses and the mind. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, there are 2 major verses that are repeated twice. And this purport and verse is especially applicable to the first standard of engaging in Krishna service, that is, utilizing the modes of material nature that we're situated under and following Krishna's directions, called Varna and Ashram. And Krishna has just gone over the different varnas, the occupations. But the idea is the same, because the varnas are meant for sacrifice, yagya by Vishnu. The Vaishyas would grow the food, they protect the cows, they get ghee for the sacrifice, they trade and they get gold and give a certain percentage for the sacrifice, and then the Brahmin, the Kshatriyas would organize the sacrifice, the Brahmins would chant the mantras for the sacrifice, and the whole idea was to chant in such a way as to satisfy Vishnu. Basically praying to Vishnu for some result. Now, the sacrifice itself is not very important in one sense. Even the results are not that important. The fact that it's being directed to Vishnu, Krishna, asking him for something, that's what's important. Because by asking something from Vishnu, and if Krishna supplies whatever we ask for, then we develop faith in Vishnu. Because in Varna, in the sacrifice for elevation to the heavenly planets, result in good birth, power and so forth, these things are all temporary. But still, because Krishna is the object, and if people develop faith in Krishna, then the result is that one day, like Dhruva Maharaj, or Gajendra, or the sages of Naimisharanya, or even the four Kumaras, one day they realize that material results do not give one transcendental elevation. And therefore, instead of praying to Vishnu, Krishna, the material things, they pray for pure service to him, eventually. Therefore, Krishna says, Shreya Swadamo Viguna, Paradharma Svamistita, Shredamo Dinanam Shreya, Paradharmo Bhayavaha. That it's better to perform one's own occupational duty, even imperfectly, than perform someone else's duty, because destruction, the cause of one's own duty, is better, because to follow someone else's duty is dangerous. In other words, our first business is to find out what kind of modes we're situated under. Now, of course, in Kali Yuga, none of us, practically speaking, are engaged in fire sacrifices for Vishnu. That the only sacrifice we're engaged in is that has any transcendental benefit. It's all centered around at least the holy name. Chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Because the chanting is not like, it doesn't matter how we chant, it does matter how we chant. If we actually ask Srimati Radharani and Krishna to engage us in the loving service, that has a different effect than if we just mechanically chant like a parrot. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. So that's a parrot. What to speak of that favorite verse that I always really do. Shnek, shnek, ram, ram, de, 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 hey, kitty, kitty, hey, kitty, hey. Hey, ram, 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 de, 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 hey, 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 ram, ram, de, de, de. So that kind of chanting has no transcendental value and has no material value. That unless we chant to Srimati Radharani just like a child, calling for her Krishna and Srimati Radharani, just like a child calling for its mother, that in spite of all our big intelligence, all the talents we have, all the good things we've learned, still we're helpless in Kali Yuga, practically speaking. All the decisions that influence our lives are being made, practically speaking, by other people, and those other people have no desire to help us at all. Therefore, we see every day, Tadhasadudinam Dharma Satvam Sochnam Dayashama Kalena Balya Rajan Nakshapranam Balam Smriti. That day after day, Dharma is going down. And it doesn't change, it just gets worse. It's the same thing they said in the last war that lasted for 10 years. And people are, because they've lost their Dharma, they're being misled by such personalities. Well, the only thing big about them is the trouble that they make. Just like here in Vrindavan, there's so many monkeys. They're very active. They're running around all day long, but all they're doing is trying to create problems for others. That's their whole business. Actively foolish. So the bigger the country, the bigger they're actively foolish. Creating horrible, unbeneficial works meant to destroy the world because they're in ignorance. They have no idea what duty is. Yagya by Vishnu. They think everything has come about by accident. That there's no God, there's no foundation. It's all produced of sense desire and there's no other cause than lust. And therefore they think the aim of life, Chintyam aparayam cha palayantam upashitya hama bhagava parama etavam iti nishchita aisha pasha shitaravada kama kroda parayanaha ihanti kama bhogartha aninenartha sanjaya. They believe to gratify the senses unto the end of life is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus there is no end to their misery. Being bound by hundreds and thousands of desires, by lust and anger, they secure money by illegal means for sense enjoyment. And how do we know what are the symptoms of such a person? And do we have any of those qualities ourselves to some degree? Idamaya maya labdva imam prapse manoratam idam asti amati me vivishati prahladananda asamaya takshatra anishe chaburanapi ishvaraham hambogi saraham balavasagi adyo vidravanasmi konyosti sadrishamaya yaksheda shamimodisha ityagana vimovita. They think, they believe, idam adyamaya, so much have I gained today. And I'll gain more in the future. So much is mine, and I'll get more and more and more. That he is my enemy, and I have killed him. And all my other enemies will all be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am perfect. I am powerful, and I'm happy. And I'm surrounded by rich and aristocratic relatives. There's no someone so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform some sacrifice. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way the demoniac are bewildered by ignorance, deluded by ignorance. So this is the consciousness that modern human beings are brought up with, trying to go to some university, get your degree, make money, get your house, get your wife, get your color TV. Om Jai Jagadisha Hari. Without any thought, any knowledge that everything is just under the control of time, everything has appeared temporarily, very shortly it'll all be taken away. And will be another phase of time in some other body, in some other situation, very rapidly in Kali Yuga. But now any thought what the purpose of life is, that we're conscious living entities, and the aim of life is to get out of the material conscious conception of life and liberate ourselves into the spiritual atmosphere. No idea about that, because people have no idea what the aim of life is. Attain vidu swartikatim vivishnu darashayai bahya artamanina. Andayatandira Pagimanaste Piksha Tantra Udamibara. People don't know that the aim of life is to concentrate the mind upon Vishnu, Krishna, to become dependent on Him. And He's all-pervading. Now, even we want to take shelter of our mother, we want to take shelter of our teacher, we want to take shelter of anyone, except for Krishna. Krishna is the only one who can help us in all circumstances, because He's everywhere. The airplane pilots, when they're about to crash their plane, they have a black box, and in the black box, in the black box, they record what the final words of the pilots are. And many times they've found out that before the plane would crash, the pilot would call out, "Mommy!" But Mommy can't help them. "Mommy, come and help me." Sorry, sir. You're going to get a crash course right now. That only Krishna can help you in that circumstance. Therefore, we should find out what we're supposed to do for Krishna. Now, theoretically, we have different talents and abilities. Some people like maybe generally it's pujaris, or book distributors, or cleaners, or administrators. Still, there's different devotees, they have different talents, and we should utilize them to spread Krishna consciousness. Because although it appears that there's a great drama going on, but the drama is really birth, death, old age, and disease. That's what the drama is. We've taken birth, everyone is expecting big things from us, or maybe not such big things. We grow old, we get diseased, and we die, and we go on to another form of life. Now, if you were a monkey, your parents wouldn't expect big things from you. And if you're a human being, they expect the same thing. Because the monkeys, all they're concerned with is eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And their life is quite simple. They just steal a few bananas and everything's cooked, all right. But here, we made it very complicated. And therefore, to eat, sleep, mate, and defend, you have to be quite expert. You have to make a lot of money to do those things. To do them in style, at least. Therefore, people go to school, they get educated, and they think that's the sacrifice they're supposed to make. Sacrifice their lives to become an IT expert. And nowadays it's ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever else it is, to study those things so you can learn more carefully, more instantaneously what you have to do to eat, sleep, mate, and defend. And if you don't have the talent, the ability to be able to economically develop like that, then your eating, sleeping, mating, defending is supposedly minimized. And therefore your life is a failure. Because you cannot live up to the standard of the animals, the big animals. You have to remain a little animal. In any case, we're not about to perform any yajna here that's going to have any fire sacrifice that's going to produce anything but smoke. Maybe it'll burn a few grains too. We throw them in the right place. But the chanting of the holy name is a different level. Manmana bhava mad bhakto, madhyaji mam namaskuru, Mamai Vaishasi Satyamate Patijani Priyosame. Because this is directly engaging the soul in Krishna's service. In other words, the soul can be engaged in sacrifice in some point, either as an assistant, or as a producer for the ingredients, or as an organizer for the sacrifice, or as a performer of the sacrifice. But ultimately, although there's some material objective, still it's being requested to Krishna, Om, that he provides the result for the sacrifice. Now the chanting also, we may have so many material objectives when we're chanting, but at least it should be directed to Krishna. That much we should know what we're doing. That even we have some material desires, but we should know we're asking Krishna to them. So therefore we should develop some faith in Krishna. If we don't study Prabhupada's books, learn how we're not this body, we're the consciousness within the body's working at every moment on the material nature, and material nature is being controlled by Krishna. And what results we get, materially or spiritually, depend upon Krishna. Now, if we don't recognize that there's a super soul within our heart, giving us remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness, and believe that we're independent actors, that we don't really need Krishna, or that anything we get, good or bad, all depends upon Krishna. If we don't understand that, then we're just acting like the ordinary animals, following their senses. On the other hand, if we understand samam bhashami sarvatra samavasti tamishram nihinasyatmanatmanam tatayati paramgatim, that one can see the soul and the super soul in all bodies, who knows neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, he actually sees. Samam bhashami sarvatra samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshram nihinasyatmanatmanam tatayati paramgatim. One can see that the super soul is present everywhere, in all bodies and equal everywhere, does not degrade himself by his mind, and thus approaches the supreme destination. In other words, to stop trying to see everyone else as the cause of our problems, and trying to understand that the cause of our problems is ourselves, and that Krishna is simply giving us the results of what we're doing, good or bad. And some of the instruments may be there to give us the results of our work, but they're simply facilitating to understand that ultimately Krishna is in control. If we get a good result, that's to help us engage better in Krishna's service. And if we're getting not such a good result from what we're doing, then we should understand that actually Krishna is trying to wake us up to depend upon Him and not become attached to the results of our work. To, in good times, think about Krishna, and bad times, think about Krishna, and not become so much attached to exactly what's going on, or what I'm going to get back for what's going on. Because ultimately what we're going to get back for everything we do is we're going to get another body, either spiritual or material. At the end of this body, it doesn't matter. Nothing really matters. And what matters is what we think of at the time of death. And we work for Krishna and try to fix the mind upon Krishna. Therefore it says, Manmana, hear about Krishna, try to understand Krishna. And what's the result? What's the aim of that? Manmana bhava madbhakta, to become Krishna's devotee, to actually develop some feelings towards Krishna. A friend of Krishna, trying to become Krishna's devotee, trying to understand how ultimately it doesn't really matter externally, what matters internally, how much we're sacrificing for Krishna. And it doesn't matter who we are, what we're sacrificing, just the fact that we're trying to sacrifice something for Krishna, some energy for Krishna, some thoughts for Krishna, some explanation for Krishna, some activity for Krishna. Just the fact that we're doing it for Krishna, then we'll remember Krishna. And when we remember Krishna, then we'll understand how nice Krishna is, and we'll become His devotee. We'll want to do things for Krishna. Therefore, at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, the 4th chapter, that Saevayam ayateja yogo pradana Bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam yetaduktamam. Now this ancient science is today told by you, by me to you. Savyam Mayateja, Yogo Prakta Prahladananda. It's a very ancient science because you are both my devotee and my friend. So that's what we're trying to do. Try to become friendly to Krishna. Try to understand how Krishna is everyone's friend and he's trying to get people to do something that will benefit them. And in this age, he's trying to get people to understand that he's God. The president of our country is not the supreme leader. Our parents aren't our supreme leader. Everyone and all circumstances is being directed by Krishna. And not a blade moves without Krishna. Whatever we're experiencing is all because of Krishna. And it depends upon us whether we want to recognize Krishna or we want to be unconscious of Krishna. That's our decision. And the more we become conscious of Krishna and see Krishna in all activities, then the more we become free from our misconceptions and the anxiety that comes from watching especially in Kali Yuga, everything deteriorate. People are working so hard, but as I said, day after day, Dharma is going down. People's tolerance is going down. Their cleanliness is going down. Their forgiveness is going down. Their memory is going down. Their bodily strength is going down. Everything auspicious is being reduced in Kali Yuga because people are not becoming Krishna conscious. Because they're not hearing about Krishna. And it's not like there's an alternative. There's some other knowledge, there's some other philosophy, there's some other information that will be better than understanding that we're eternal. That everyone is working hard to survive for a few years. But if we're eternal, why not live eternally? Why just try to maintain ourselves for a few years in this world and then go somewhere else? Only Krishna knows where we're going. Why not become eternal? Wouldn't that be nice to realize we're eternal? Then there's no more anxiety. And the only way we can do that in this age is to take shelter of Paramatma. And all Paramatma wants us to do is to engage in Krishna's service, especially Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement. Yari Deka Tari Kaha Krishna Upadesh Amara Aga Gurahana Tari Desh. Whoever we meet, our only business is try to help them become conscious of Krishna, somehow or another. Same thing Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Hear about me, Manmana, Bhava Madhvakta. Try to become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage unto me. Then he says, give up all this nonsense that you've learned. All these leaders, all these heroes, all these conceptions that there's something better to do than serve Krishna. And our real problem is not ourselves alone. Our real problem is that all the people who've taken shelter of. That's where we'll be created, that's our obstacles. Idam tetana paskayana bhaktaya kadachana echashushu sheve vacham nachamam yogasuyate. Therefore Krishna says that we should avoid the people who are envious of Krishna. We should avoid people who are not inclined to hear about Krishna. Idam tetana paskaya. Who are not inclined to any kind of austerity. Devaskaya, Nabhakta. They're not wanting to become, they're non-devotees. They have no desire to become a devotee of God or follow His instructions. Bhakta. They don't want to hear anything about Krishna. The Chamam Yogasviti. And especially those who are envious of Krishna. So we should not associate with them. And then Krishna says, Idam Tainan Paskaya. No. Yaimam Paramam Guyam Madbhakteshva Dashati Bhakti Mahi Puram Kritva Mama Vashati Samshaya Then in this world there's no one more dear to me than one who tells the devotees about devotional service. So we can do that. Whoever we meet, just think about, what can I do, what can I say to help them become Krishna conscious, and then we become very dear to Krishna. Yata tasman manusheshu kaschame priya kritamaha bhavita chanama me tasmat anya priyataro bhuvi. Then in this world there's no one more dear to me than he, nor will in the future be anyone more dear. So we don't have to get any position. We don't have to become Diksha Gurus or Shiksha Gurus or presidents or GBCs or temple command. We just have to tell people about Krishna. Then we become dear to Krishna. And if we're dear to Krishna, who cares what position we have? I mean, the topmost position is Srimati Radharani, and she's the cowherd girl. Now, if you filled out your application to get a job nowadays, and the lady wrote down, they ask you, what was your experience? And you say, well, my experience is milking cows. And sometimes I make garlands and I cook for Krishna every morning. Do you think you get any job in modern society? Maybe he's a cook somewhere. There's not so many vegetarian restaurants. So people think, well, if someone said, if someone asked King Vrishabhanu, and what does your daughter do for a living? Nowadays, King Vrishabhanu came to India, and someone asked King Vrishabhanu, Srimati Radharani's father, and Kirti, what does your daughter do for a living? And they say, well, she doesn't have a job. And they go, oh, really? What school does she go to? She never went to school. Really? What does she do all day? Well, most of the day, in the morning she goes and cooks for Krishna. And during the day, she makes garlands for Krishna. And at night she dances with Krishna. That's all she knows how to do. Oh, we're so sorry for you. That's all. What about your son? Well, he milks cows. He's a cowherd boy. Sridhar. Really? Does he do anything else? Yeah, he knows how to wrestle a little bit. And he knows how to dance and imitate frogs. And he plays all day. How old is he? Well, he's in his 30s right now. Really? He poor family. Did he go to school? Well, no, actually he never went to school. He's been playing all his life. Does he have a girlfriend? Not really. What kind of games he plays? Well, he imitates the cuckoo bird. And sometimes he jumps in the lake after the frogs. Really, he's that crazy. So, if we think I have a big position now, I'm controlling someone, and then you go back to the spiritual world, you wind up to be a cowherd boy, herding cows. You think, wow, I was in charge of 3 zones, and now I'm just herding cows all day long. This is really let down. No, there's no big position in the Hare Krishna movement. The big position is to become Krishna conscious. And then when we become Krishna conscious, then we'll find ourselves in a world where all these hierarchies don't exist anymore. I mean, sure, Nanda Maharaj is a king, Yasoda is a king, Srimati Radharani is a princess, but they're all unlimitedly humble and loving their servants. They're servants and they're subjects. They're servants to the servants. They're not puffed up thinking, I have so many cows, I have so much in the bank. No, they're humble devotees of Krishna. And Krishna is a humble devotee of all his devotees. So all this idea that I'm going to make some advancement here, become popular or wealthy or strong or influential is all illusion. We don't become anything because we're not the body. The soul doesn't change. Even since we've been born, we haven't changed even the smallest bit. The only thing we can change is our consciousness. Either become conscious of Krishna by hearing and chanting about Krishna and serving him, or we're just wasting our time trying to do something other than that. This is all, except for Krishna consciousness, everything is temporary. Anyhow, I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? No, I have enough water. We don't. Any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. You mentioned how we should depend on Krishna in all our activities. And my question is that when you were a young devotee, when you were all growing up with Prabhupada, and there was very much like the Sankirtan fire, and so it seems that most devotees did book distribution, and within that activity, we're forced to depend on Krishna. It's very obvious that we're not in control. And so I'm just wondering, it doesn't seem that culture is much is alight everywhere in the world so much anymore, and there's such a variety of services that devotees are doing. So how can we maintain that mood of dependence upon Krishna when there's such variegated activities?
Well, I guess we have to find out what's actually going on. In other words, read Prabhupada's books, chant Hare Krishna, try to hear how Prabhupada was chanting Hare Krishna. Try to listen to Prabhupada, and we can understand. He said that we should chant like a child calling for his mother, depending on Krishna. Then we'll take Srila. If we do that, and we experience the reciprocation from Krishna, that we follow Prabhupada's instructions and gradually come to that understanding of that we're simply servants of the servants of the servants of Krishna. Then the result is that we'll take his Prabhupada's instructions seriously. And the more we take it seriously, then the more, especially to work, as Prabhupada wrote to me, to work to bring Krishna's other children back to the spiritual kingdom, then we'll see that when I do that in some service, then Krishna will reciprocate, and I become ecstatic, and I develop love for Krishna. I'm able to see things properly, my real identity. I'm able to understand what I'm supposed to be doing, to actually do something worthwhile for myself and others. I become detached from all these other crazy things that are going on in the world. And therefore, the enthusiasm arises out of patiently hearing Prabhupada and his representatives repeating his message. With confidence and determination, chanting our rounds every day, coming to the program, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, serving the devotees, worshipping the deities, trying to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. So when we do that with confidence and patience, then our enthusiasm will grow. And therefore, we want to do it more and more because it gives us transcendental happiness by doing it. But if we don't do that, if we don't take Prabhupada seriously, we think Prabhupada's instructions are just something ordinary, or they're just, he gave so many instructions, I don't know which ones are important. But actually what's important is we realize we're eternal. We take shelter of Paramatma within our heart and do what he wants us to do, which Prabhupada is expressing externally, Krishna is reminding us internally. And know that the goal of life is to become Krishna conscious, to revive our loving relationship with Krishna, who is unlimitedly powerful, unlimitedly kind, unlimitedly sweet, and our friend. And that the more we become aware of him, the more we become aware of how Paramatma is guiding us towards him, the more we become aware of how Prabhupada is and others who are following Prabhupada and representing him are helping us take shelter of Paramatma within our heart and guiding us towards Krishna, then the more enthusiastic we'll be to take shelter of Prabhupada and those who are sincerely following Prabhupada's instructions. And therefore, all the other things that are going on, either in modern society or in this kind of society, we'll understand it's just due to lack of faith in Prabhupada, due to lack of faith in those who are sincerely trying to understand and follow Prabhupada, and due to lack of faith in the fact that Paramatma is there to guide us and tell us what we have to do to make our lives successful at least. Doesn't matter how crazy everyone else is. The question is how crazy we want to be, or how sane we want to be. I think, anything else? Yes.
While chanting, how do we sustain that mood of dependence and...
Or from those who are heard from Prabhupada. But also, those who heard from Prabhupada, we recommend that we hear actually directly from Prabhupada. Because to actually be able to chant like Prabhupada by how wonderful Krishna is, how beautiful, how pleasurable it is to be with Krishna, that she feels completely dependent on him. And also unlimitedly grateful for those who have offered her the opportunity to be with Krishna, who's made the arrangements for her. You know, with the idea we're directly addressing Srimati Radharani and Krishna. It's not just some sound. It's actually a prayer to Srimati Radharani and Krishna. And they're hearing it. And they're and Shnai Shnara Paramad Buddhya Dvita Grihitaya Avasam Samana Krispana Kanchidati Chintaya. Where gradually, step by step, with full conviction, once you become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, this mind should think of the self alone and nothing else. Yato nischalati manakchanchalamasthira tatastato niyamnyarata atmanyeva vishamya. Wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering, Prasanta manasamyenam yoginam sukha uttamam upaiti shanta rajasam brahmabhutam kamasham. Yogi's mind fixed on me barely attains the highest perfectional state of happiness. By virtue of identity with Brahman, his passions acquired, his mind is peaceful and he's free from all sins. Prasanta and Krishna to engage us in their service. Then, when we experience the happiness that comes from associating with him, that itself will inspire us to keep on trying. And even if the mind deviates for some time, then we'll bring it back. Just like, for instance, even one day you eat too much, you get a little sick. But that doesn't mean that you're not looking forward to eating again. Because there's happiness in eating. And even if we make a mistake and we eat too much, whatever, then we get sick and then we think, well, when am I going to get better so I can eat again? Because the eternal, actually doing things that will bring us in contact with the Super Soul, so we understand how he's helping us. And ultimately, taking shelter of the Super Soul externally and his representatives, and internally is the Super Soul.
Three times mentioned that we need to realize our eternity and that we also need to realize Paramatma, to be dependent on the Super Soul in our heart. How can we do that?
Well, one thing we can do is listen to him. Listen to Paramatma. When he tells us to do something, we should do it. When he tells us not to do something, we shouldn't do it. And we know what to do and what's not to do by hearing ultimately from Prabhupada and the Acharyas, their books, their instructions, and also from those who are repeating the same instructions, following the same example. So we have to learn from them what we're supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do. Pravitim Chan Nivritim Chan Janana Vidu Asura Dasocha Navichachara Nasatyam Teshu Vijite. Those who are demoniac, they don't know what's to be done or what's not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor truth. And if we don't know what to do, then ask someone who knows what to do. Anything else?
Hare Krishna. Can you please share some of your pastimes with Prabhupada that will encourage our bhakti?
Well, this is one pastime. We're here, we're repeating Prabhupada's instructions, we're reading his book. He must be here. He's hearing his instructions. And we're trying to hear them ourselves, trying to understand what they are, trying to become convinced to follow them. So that's also Prabhupada's pastime. Otherwise, when Prabhupada, I sat with Prabhupada many times, listened to his lectures, or heard him personally giving instructions, or others. What did he say? I remember when Prabhupada came to Buffalo in '69, and I sat with him for a week, sometimes 2 or 3 hours at a time, listening to Prabhupada, going on engagements with him, having personal darshan with him during that time. But what Prabhupada said, the same thing we're saying now. nothing extraordinary. It's not that one time he said, well, Krishna is God, and another time he said, well, Shiva might be God. That's the same thing we're repeating. Of course, Prabhupada had the potency to be convincing, but then again, the knowledge is, how many times we have to hear that we're not the body to become convinced that this body is changing or we're not changing. How many of us actually think that there's not a super soul guiding us within the heart? When I quote verses, I have no idea. It's not me. It's not like I'm reading some script in my heart or something. I'm just acting as an instrument for Krishna. He's just supplying the intelligence, the remembrance. So if we don't recognize that Krishna is the one who's doing it, then we're pretty unaware. If I go through, a verse, sometimes I have to look at the first word. Let's see, famous verse in Bhagavad Gita. Tidro parameti chitam nirudo yoga sevaya yatra chevatmanam pashati tushiti sukhama dhyandikam yatra buddhigrayam tendriyam vediyatrana chaivayam sitam chalati tatpatha yam lava chapalam lava manitena adhikam tata yasmin sito nadukena guruna pi vichalayate tam vidya sukha dukasam yogam viyogam yogasam gitaha. That state of perfection is called transfer samadhi, when one's mind is completely free from all mental activity. That state is characterized by one's ability to see the self within the mind, by the pure consciousness, and rejoice in that self. In that state, one is situated in unlimited transcendental happiness and enjoys himself through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. Upon gaining this, he thinks there's no greater gain. Being so situated in such a condition, one is never disturbed in spite of the greatest difficulty. This is indeed actually freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So how did I do that? I have no idea. Krishna was just supplying. I'm just listening myself. So, do I have some script in my heart I'm reading? No, it's just Krishna supplying the intelligence how to do it. And how do you do it? Well, you study the book and you pray to Krishna, you can remember it. And then Krishna helps you remember it. So this is all Krishna's pastime. And it's all because, Prabhupada has given us the inspiration. Prabhupada has given us the books. He's created this movement for us on behalf of Krishna as his instrument through this succession. So this is all Prabhupada's pastime. And to take out some pastime of Prabhupada and not see it in relation to this pastime, then we're just basically thinking that there was some pastimes with Prabhupada when he was here 50 years ago, and this is not this same pastime is going on. Prabhupada's here. We're trying to be here. We're trying to serve Prabhupada in his mission. So that this is all part of his pastime. Therefore, Prabhupada, when he was asked, can you tell us, Trivikram Prabhu asked Prabhupada, can you tell us some path, he was massaging Prabhupada, and he asked him, can you tell us something about your Guru Maharaj? And Prabhupada's answer was, he was a Vaikuntha man, that's what he said. Did Prabhupada spend all the time talking about